You're listening to Now I've Heard Everything, conversations with the icons of our time.
We didn't know it was an event the world was paying attention to. We couldn't see newspapers. We couldn't watch TV. We were busy in the rain and the mud trying to do what they call today is damage control. Then it was called surviving.
Remembering Woodstock with Elliot Tiber. Today on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson. It was this week 55 years ago, starting on August 15th, 1969 to be exact, that organizers put on what was called an Aquarian Exposition. This was, after all, the age of Aquarius. We now know it simply as Woodstock, a 3-day music festival in White Lake, New York. But by one man's account, it nearly didn't happen, if not for him. Elliot Tiber and his family operated a small rundown motel in Bethel, New York. And Elliot also owned a permit for a music festival in Bethel. As he told in his 1994 book called Taking Woodstock, that permit, coupled with his friendship with nearby dairy farmer Max Yasgur, helped make Woodstock a reality. I met Elliot when he was on a book tour in 1994. Now, if you thought that the interview you're about to hear was some quiet, sedate interview with a nearly 60-year-old washed-up has-been, no, get rid of that thought and buckle up, because here is my 1994 conversation with Elliot Tiber.
Well, I have a little place in history, and it has been covered over and ignored for 25 years. And finally, I thought, well, I'm on my way out now. As you see, I have gray hair. And no one mentioned something about this Woodstock festival. The clear thing, the essential thing, if not for me, there would not have been a Woodstock 1 or 2 or anything else. And the reason is I had a permit. That really, I see, knocks you off your chair there.
Just a minor little technicality, yes.
I had a permit that said Elliot Tiber may hold a music and arts festival in Bethel, in perpetuity. I heard on the radio, the power of radio, I was sitting there in Bethel with my rundown motel, which was full of green flying things and no money, and the bank was going to take us over, and I had a theater, an underground movie house, and 22 actors who were hungry, doing Pinter and summer stock in the Catskills does not work. Don't try it. And so every year for 10 years I was holding my music and arts festival, including plays and theaters, and 38 people never showed up each year for 10 years. Only one person showed up, and that was my milkman, Max Yasgur, and he brought yogurt and ice cream for all of the actors. Terrific, right? So I hear on the radio that Woodstock, the Woodstock Festival, we didn't know what it would be, and just a music festival, maybe 10,000 people, long-haired hippies. I didn't know what that was. They were thrown out of Woodstock then, as they are now. They were then thrown out of Wallkill. Their permit was rescinded. And they had $2 million invested in the site, which was like $20 million today, and no place to go, and kaput. And here I was with 72 rooms, granted slanting and ugly, and no running water. We were underwater, not running water. And under my Ethel Merman picture, because I liked Ethel Merman, on the wall was my permit stapled up. And one of the actors said, "Look, Elliot, they're all talking about a permit, but what is that permit you always have under Ethel Merman's picture there?" I said, "Well, it's a music festival permit." "Are you crazy? Why don't you call?" And I said, "But what does it got to do? They're not going to come here. No one goes to White Lake. Nobody. Only dead people and or suspended and people in suspended some kind of hydration. I don't know." So I called up the Woodstock office, and I said, and they said, "Who are you?" and all that. I said, "You don't know who I am. It doesn't matter who I am. I have a festival permit, and I have 15 acres of ground, and I'm not going to sell it to you. I will give it to you. Just come here, rent my rooms, and save us. You're our kind of people." So Mike Lang got on the phone, and I explained to him, and he said, "How do we get to you? By helicopter?" Well, I didn't have those instructions. No helicopters ever came to White Lake. So I put a white cross on the lawn, and my old Jewish mother, very religious, said, "A cross on my Jewish lawn." And then this bird comes over with the whirling blades and wild hair and half naked and hugging me, and two men don't hug. I wasn't out then. And he says, "Let me see the permit," and he did. And Mother said, "A cross on my Jewish lawn, and is that Jesus?" To her, it was Jesus. Meanwhile, the townsfolk surrounded us, and Mother started renting them folding chairs. We had no income, so that was something, $1 a chair, to watch whatever it was we were doing. All my actors stripped naked instantly. I don't know what prompted it, and painted, and I have it in my movie, Ticket to Freedom, Woodstock, painting love signs on their bodies and lipstick, whatever. I don't know why they were doing what they do. I couldn't take care of myself. Go take care of these groups. So we went to look at the grounds, and I was in a sign painting mode for therapy when I was depressed. This was before Prozac. If there were Prozac, there wouldn't have been a Woodstock. Nobody would have showed up. Not only that, the performers wouldn't need to play. I'm on Prozac 3 years. That's how I finished the book. So anyway, we're there trying to put all of this together in our heads, and the sign painting mode. So I had, on top of one cesspool, we had a lot of cesspools, Marlene Dietrich Towers. On top of another building, the Neil Diamond Suite, the Jimi Hendrix this, the Bob Streisand that. And it was all falling down, but I painted signs. There were hundreds of signs, especially for sale, name your price. Still, no one ever came in. And no, we never had a repeat business. Whoever did come in for something never came back again. Anyhow, so when they saw these signs, they said to themselves the famous French expression, woohoo, which means bananas or something like that, or off the wall or unwired. And they were starting to leave, and I said to Mike Lang, wait a minute, my milkman, Max Yazka, he's got a farm with 1,000 acres maybe and a lot of cows there. He has a room called Max. Max said, sure, you and your festivals, Elliot. Yeah, it costs about $55 to me to move the hay to the other end of the field, and yeah, come down, look at it. So we came down. They went ballistic. They saw that natural amphitheater that we now all know, and Max said, this is fine. And then when we were Power of Radio in a restaurant to sign a little agreement, the waitress had her umbilical cord plugged into the FM station because she said, Elliot Tiber and Max Yazga, two local misfits on radio, were here in collusion with Mike Lang from Woodstock, and they're going to bring the Holocaust and devastation of 50,000, whatever number she made up, 50,000 hippies, lock up your women and children. And I'm thinking, why don't they ever say lock up the boys and the husbands or something? No, it's something with women and children. And the yahoos there in Bethel are the types that they go out killing Bambi's mother. And when Bambi's mother's not around, they practice on blacks, on gays, on lesbians, on Jews, anybody who doesn't fit into this yahoo mentality. So we didn't tip the waitress as we left, and the rent went up to about $75,000 a day when we realized how much we didn't expect. We didn't know it was going to be a world event. And that's how I was a delivery man. I delivered that permit. I delivered Max Yazga, and I delivered the Woodstock baby. You were going to ask me that. I like that laugh.
Your chapter heading, you don't know nothing about birth and no babies.
Oh, you read it. Hey, that's terrific. This girl comes in. I'm into leather. As anybody sees the wonderful book that they could get, I'll be very subtle. The cover of my book, I'm in leather, a motorcycle, and my little dog, Shayna Woodstock, who's a Yorkie, and handcuffs dangling. And this book has just been taken off the shelves at Macy's because the book buyer finally read the book. They were doing a whole display. I was going to walk up and down an aisle with models or something. And then they say it's a funny book, but then they read it. So Macy's decided it's not for me. And I worked for Macy's. I was a senior executive there. I'll fix them. I'll return everything I ever bought there. That's their policy. Folks, go and return it to Macy's. Anyway, the girl comes in on a motorcycle in a leather jacket and nothing else. Go no. All right, and she sits down, or falls down rather, the bike as close as we are, which is 3 feet, starts shrieking, and spreads her legs, and out comes a little head of a baby. I started pulling, and I don't know anything about babies. I'm not a doctor. I was a teacher at Hunter College, very conservative. They didn't allow you to have babies in class. You know, Hunter College, very old school. They do things in a certain way. And I was a design consultant for the stores, even Macy's. I was designing for Macy's. Anyway, out comes this baby. I'm pulling the head, and I was stoned. Like everyone else was stoned. I had blue pills, green pills, whatever it was they were giving out. I tasted it. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful party. Yes, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was wonderful. Anyhow, I'm pulling out the baby and holding it, and there's the cord hanging, and the baby was crying. It came out crying. Don't ask. Go no. So the baby's there crying, and she's sitting there, and I'm staring at her, and I said, girl, is there something wrong with your brains? What? Are your brains fried? Why are you riding around 9.5 months pregnant, whatever it is, and you're about to give birth? You are giving birth. You have given birth. Why are you on a bike? I had to see Janis Joplin. I said, well, we all want to see Janis, but she said, look, I didn't know I was pregnant. I don't even know how it happened. And there's this baby, and I'm hollering, someone get a medic. And, there were no cars. It was just motorcycles and horses and skateboards, I suppose, whatever. So we had volunteer helicopters, were a lot of them, and some with a medic came in a helicopter right on my grounds there and cut the cord and do whatever it is that they do. I didn't watch. I was cringing. And they all look at me. The state trooper on a horse, who was my type, says, "Who's the daddy?" And my mother runs out, "Hey, listen, he's Jewish. He doesn't have babies in the fields and mud." So that's my Woodstock baby, and maybe one of your listeners is that Woodstock baby.
This is a little baby girl?
I don't know. I was stoned.
You don't even know?
No. I don't know. Stoned or...
You were close enough to see the cord, but not close enough to see if it was a boy or a girl.
Well, I wouldn't look, would I? That's not nice. I went to a yeshiva. You know what a yeshiva is? A parochial school. Yeshiva Flatbush. Terrible school. Don't go there. Anyway, we're looking. Life magazine put my phone number in 1989 for 20th anniversary. I still get calls. That magazine is in every dentist's office around the world. But if there is such a real... I've got thousands of calls, but just craziness. If there is such a baby out there, I mean, now would be 25 years old. This 15th Life magazine wants to put you on the cover. Please call this station. They'll tell you how to get to us.
That's kind of a historic thing if you could find that kid.
Yes, it would be. But I just think I got calls from women who said, many, hundreds, who said they were the mother and they were ashamed of being in the mud. But how many mothers could you have that say that? So it seems to me that wasn't real.
True. Now, much has been made over the years. Tragically, there were 3 deaths during the festival. But I mean, when you have tens of thousands of people,
1 million people in the county, a million.
You're going to have statistically a few deaths.
Well, there was really one, and that death was an accident. A kid went into a sleeping bag underneath a tractor, and the guy who started up the tractor didn't know anyone was on there, ran over him. But that's why they're putting this spiritual value on this child, Woodstock child, because one died and one was born. And I'm not such a spiritual person. I did this to rent my rooms if I wasn't broke. But when I was doing all of this stuff with the first aid and the baby, and then the music started, and I couldn't get to the farm because I was feeding people, and Richie Havens sang, the music and the songs hit the lake, White Lake, which is 5 miles, and it acted as some kind of transmitter because the sound was as if I'm in the same room. And when he sung Freedom, I knew why I was there, why it was meant to be. I knew what it was about. It brought freedom, not just for me, but I didn't name it Woodstock Generation. The media did eventually. We didn't know it was an event the world was paying attention to. We couldn't see newspapers. We couldn't watch TV. We were busy in the rain and the mud trying to do what they call today is damage control. Then it was called surviving. Only after the fact, I ran to Europe because they were going to arrest me because they said that I was responsible for devastating the county, which brought in $10 million to a county that was bankrupt, which was like $100 million. Today, Bethel has changed all the roads from the farm out to one-way out. So legally, you cannot go this weekend to even near the farm. And Sid Bernstein, who brought the Beatles, he leased the farm for 10 years. He has said, come there. So in principle, Melanie and Richie Havens and I are going Saturday morning with a camera crew, them with their guitars and me with my big mouth, and we want to go visit Sid on the farm. Now, in principle, they're going to say you're breaking the law because they have changed the law in that town. The way when I was doing this, there was no limit to festival things. Nobody ever brought it up. And as soon as this happened, they changed it to 50 people maximum gathering. 50 people, that's not even a wedding. Bethel. And Bethel 94, they pulled the plug. I was going to be the MC. It would have been an incredible event, but they pulled the plug on us.
Well, it would be a grievous mistake to think of Woodstock 94 as any way connected with the original Woodstock except in the name, wouldn't it?
Right. Well, it's Mike Lang. It was his festival, and if anyone has the right to do what he does, and he's no monster, I'm not happy with this. I wanted to be on stage to be the link with the past, and I thought it would be helpful for all of the terrible mouth that's going on about this Saugerties. And he didn't get on the phone. I haven't spoken to him, but his office had said to me, key person in the office said, "You're too old. You have gray hair. These 22-year-olds are not going to want to look at you." I said, well, I'm not trying to marry them all. I just want to say hello and bring the past and present together. It is a spiritual symbol now. And she says, don't get me wrong, we loved your book. It's hilarious. Everyone here is howling and all of that. And we have nothing against you, and we love you dearly, but the beard. And I'm thinking maybe it's homophobic. I don't know. I didn't know if I mentioned I'm a gay man. I was then, but in the closet. And if Kinsey's records were accurate, 10% of 1 million people was 100,000. There must have been more, because everywhere I looked, the musicians, the technicians, the singers, not all of them, but a good percentage, we were gay, we were lesbians, and we were part of it and building it. And without the gay and lesbian population, there wouldn't have been anything. The same way all of these people with the fashions now in the stores, the ripped jeans. I won't say this on your radio show so that you don't get fired, but I know where those ripped jeans come from, and it isn't from Bloomingdale's windows. And well, there's Prozac, so I won't go for about the jeans.
My 14-year-old daughter had thoughts of going this weekend, and I tried to give her some notion of what the original Woodstock was like, because to be candid, I'm not sure I would want my 14-year-old daughter going to anything that was like the original Woodstock.
Well, the original Woodstock, nobody planned what it was. The mud and rain, you can't blame on us, okay?
True.
Fair enough. The drugs passed around. We were naive. Nobody said drugs are going to damage your brain. Timothy Leary was running around, a professor for, was it Cambridge or Harvard, running around with the drugs. It was very nice. There was no AIDS. From being pent up and closeted, and not just the gays, the straights too, and not being able to do anything. Suddenly, here was this huge sea of people hugging and touching and kissing and loving, and there was no threat of AIDS or disease. What's so terrible? It was wonderful. Now it can't be because of AIDS. And unfortunately, and the straight kids across country are doing all the sex clubs and are doing drugs and are doing sex without condoms. They're crazy, and they are dying.
Elliot Tiber died in 2016. He was 81. Now you can get your copy of Taking Woodstock by Elliot Tiber by tapping the link in our show notes, by clicking the link in the description below if you're listening to this on YouTube, or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. Heardeverything.com is where you can also hear my 1999 interview with the incredible Richie Havens.
It was the real thing. It was people of like mind come together just to hear music. It was really magic. The experience was a collective experience.
And my 2002 conversation with another musician from Woodstock, Graham Nash.
She saw a vase in the window that she really liked, and so she bought it, and we went back to the house, and I flippantly said, well, you know, let me light a fire and you put some flowers in the vase that you just bought. And I went down, sat at Joni's piano, and our house was born.
Oh,
but I didn't realize it was going to, haunt me for the rest of my life.
And of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. And thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, as we mark another anniversary, a sad one, this one, the anniversary of the death of Elvis Presley, we'll revisit my 1989 interview with not only his longtime hairdresser, but his longtime confidant, Larry Geller.
I kept looking at Elvis's face. I remember I was looking at his lips, the famous curled lips in his throat, and I was thinking, that voice will never sing again.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson.